I found the devil.
The devil?
I found him.
Really? Is this him
No.
in this wheelchair?
No, he's over here in this bucket. I kid you not. There he is. Mr. Sin!
Oh my
Not
goodness.
bothering us anymore.
And I remember her saying, okay, you're going to play Mr. Sin today. And she hands me this purple puppet with a nasty mustache. Pop little puppet up, and literally on cue, 80 kids out there all, boo, no, yuck, I hate that guy. I was like, man, these guys are trained on cue. Like, I don't know if they got candy for doing that or what. But
Oh, man, they just want to come down on someone.
Theological teaching. Deep theological teaching.
Well,
Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Chris Behnke and I'll be hosting this episode. And as normal, I have Prudence O'Hare with me.
that's me.
Prudence, what's new?
What's new?
See,
I've been taken off guard.
you should just let me say, how are you doing? We also have Jan Schaffner. Jan, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're very excited. I feel like this is another one of those topics where it's really important, often overlooked. And so I'm excited to dig in for a couple of episodes. I often naturally will say, how are things going, or something like that. And Prudence scolds me for that and says I need to come up with more interesting questions.
I say he needs more interesting questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So I asked her what's
What's your
new.
favorite color?
Totally stumped her. What is your favorite color, Jan?
I would have to say blue.
Blue?
Blue is because it's revelation. It's color of my eyes.
Yeah.
Everybody always says blue's your color. So I think blue. Yeah.
Blue is one of those colors you can't go wrong with it.
Uh-huh.
It's just amazing.
It is the most trusting color.
It is?
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
If you're ever needing to sell something, wear blue.
Right.
Really?
Right. That's a
Yep.
good point. Yeah. Because it also means healing. Healing.
Oh.
And so that's kind of my passion, is healing, emotionally, healing physically. So blue. Yeah, blue.
And then red is like anger and mean or something?
No, it's just a power color.
Power color?
It's a power, authority color. I wear red sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going after it. I wear red.
What about you, Prudence? What's your favorite color?
I do wear a lot of blue. I have many shades that I like.
You're not going to answer this,
Although
are
I
you?
get asked that a lot.
You do? You get asked what your favorite color
I
is?
do. Lots of kids ask me this
Well,
question.
you should have an answer ready to go then.
Okay, let's go with blue.
Blue. Oh my goodness.
I'll be a
You
me too.
literally
I'm
just
me too.
stole Jan's favorite color.
I'll share it. I'll share it with you.
Let's do like turquoise or sapphire.
Yeah, kind of a lighter blue or something.
Wow. I'm gonna go with green. I'm gonna go with the deep green. That's my favorite color.
The color of life, right?
It is?
Yeah, yeah. Green
Plants.
is
Look, right
prosperity. Green
Obviously,
is,
they're
Those
not
plastic
alive,
plants are thriving. They're thriving. Well, you know what we need to do is some of these trivia questions. That's what I think we need to do.
I'm missing my bug eye.
Yeah, so we have this
Okay.
thing, Jan, where we do these trivia questions. Now, I pulled these from a website, and the website said that they were all true. So we're going off that.
okay.
We're assuming they're
we'll
true.
believe it. We'll believe it.
Now, Prudence usually gets all of them right. So there is a prize of $100 million if you win.
You told me I was getting a gold brick last time, and you didn't deliver. So
Well, I didn't say where that was coming or when that was coming. So just anticipation. All right, so let's dig in this. Let's do some questions and see if you guys, how you can do.
Okay.
What kind of animal is known as a horned toad? So what kind of animal
Horned toad?
is known as, so that infers that it's not a toad. So what kind of animal is known as a horned toad?
Okay, can you give us a sample? Like, how big is it?
It's toad sized.
It's a toad size?
Well, it's known as a horned toad.
Well, okay, a frog is a reptile, right?
No.
It's not an
No,
animal.
wait. They're those things that are like kind of in between, right? They're cold-blooded, but I don't know that they're a reptile.
So we're not talking about alligator, crocodile type, because I just came from South Carolina.
Oh.
I was thinking,
You were
they're
constantly watching
actually,
for those guys.
yeah,
Is
crocodiles
a
actually come
frog
out of the water
a
and pop their heads up.
reptile?
Yeah.
They're scary in the water. You gotta be
Amphibians
careful
or
walking
frogs?
next to the
So
water over
it's just
there.
an amphibian.
It's an amphibian.
Yeah.
Amphibian,
Okay,
yeah.
horned toad. I don't know. I've just always known them as like these frog things. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Armadillo or,
Armadillo, that's a really good guess. Really
Okay.
good guess.
okay.
It's a lizard. A lizard is
a
known as a
lizard.
horned toad. It's got to be a certain kind of lizard.
I guess. It's got
So-
horns
I
on
would
it.
say so.
You guys both got that right, in my opinion. Where do kiwi fruits originally come from? What country?
I would say Australia.
Australia? Prudence?
Oh, man.
You're overthinking it again.
Yeah.
This is a trivia you're
I
not
would say,
supposed to know.
I'll say Peru.
Peru. Oh, that's a really good guess. You're both right again. It's China. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Why do we think kiwi?
No, I
Because
don't
they
know.
call kiwi.
Yeah, kiwi.
Australians kiwi.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it actually
Yeah,
a
because they have
kiwi
an
fruit? Is that
animal
the
that's
real
called a
name?
kiwi, right?
Yeah.
It's like a bird type creature.
And don't you call them kiwi? Kiwis? They're like kiwis.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
know. Maybe that's
a good one,
derogatory.
but-
I'm not sure. Okay, last one. What kind of animal is a firefly? Bird.
Oh,
Deer.
it's a bug.
It's a
It's a
bug.
bug.
It's
A bug isn't a kind of animal, though. That's like a slang.
So wait, this is another animal that's
Fire.
called a firefly?
Yeah, this is kind of a lame one. We're gonna have to do one more
Okay,
because
just
this one's
skip
lame.
it. Let's
No,
go
we're
to
not
the next
skipping
one.
it. What's your guess? You can't just skip it because you don't know.
No.
Firefly. I thought they were the little flies that buzzed around.
those little guys.
Those little guys. Yeah.
It's
it-
a Pegasus.
Pegasus, excellent answer. It's a beetle.
It's a
beetle.
I feel like
beetle.
these trivia
A
questions are
beetle.
lame. Let's get to another one. Let's get to a good. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. What was the first fruit eaten on the moon? Assuming we went to the moon.
First fruit.
Yeah, what was the first fruit eaten on the moon?
Was it an apple?
I'll say an orange.
Orange, apple, should have been an apple, a peach.
A
That seems
peach.
really unlikely. That had to be like freeze dried.
That can't be.
Yeah,
So
that's weird. That's super
if it drips, which they normally do,
Which it would.
does the little drops like?
And then it
weird. No,
would
the
have
moon-
to be
The
freeze
moon is
dried.
not weightless.
Oh, it's only semi-weightless.
Well, it's just lighter gravity. It's lighter. Things are lighter. So you want to lose weight, you just visit the moon. I think it's 1/6. Let's look that up.
I'd
What
lose
is
weight
the
eating
gravity
freeze-dried
on
food.
the moon?
Because they wouldn't need it. Probably.
1.6. 1.6 gravity. So yeah, so you're definitely lighter on the moon. So, but the peach juice would fall to the ground. It wouldn't float in the air.
Would it go slower though?
On the way to the moon. On the way to the moon, it would float in the air. Okay. All right, that's enough. That's enough trivia. That is more than enough trivia. You guys both again scored 100%. Excellent
Thank
job,
you.
Jan. Your first time,
I
and you
know.
got 100%
Thank
accurate.
you. Thank you.
It's,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I'm a
I
trivia
didn't, I didn't
person.
expect you guys
Where
to
the
know the
kiwi
answers to
fruit
all these.
now came from.
But that
legitimately.
isn't the topic. Like normal, we now have to do this transition from the trivia to the topic. And I think we should actually start off. We have done no reasonable introduction of Jan.
No.
We have Jan Schaffner here. Jan Schaffner is an author. She's an amazing person. She does a lot of incredible work as a ministry where she really helps people. But I think we should just jump right in and have you tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Okay, I would love to do that. So I'm a freedom fighter, and I'm trying to converge my whole life to right now where I am. And I'm just turned 72 years old, and my whole life I've had people come up to me in church over the last 52 years since I got saved, saying, God's saving the best for last. And so I've always had that word kind of there. And now I see that it is absolutely true. Wow. So it's my whole life really, even up till when I got saved at 20. And then the last 52 years of being in the church and seeing I believe every aspect of the church, all the facets of it, being involved at every level imaginable, from being just sitting on the pew and really not being totally engaged to being a leader in a lot of different ministries, leading teams and all of that. So I've seen it all pretty much, over these last 52 years. So I just feel like God's bringing it all together, and the passion in my heart has always been to help people get physically set free or emotionally set free.
Wow.
But that message was not very honored, I guess I would say, or received well.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to keep quiet about it for a lot of years. I was just I knew it was in me, I knew I had a passion, but I didn't know how to actually go about doing it and stepping into it. So the interesting thing was, I'm just going to take you back a teeny bit to some highlights of my life. So I grew up in a very religious home where my mom was, she was a Christian, but she was a very religious one. So she made sure we went to church, went to Sunday school, did all of the stuff, but there was no real love, and there was no real power attached to that. And so as I was, I did it all, and I obeyed, and we went, and my other 3 siblings, we all were obedient and went to church every Sunday. We went to confirmation, we went through all the stuff, but I didn't find God that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't real to me, and I didn't see it being lived out. And so I'm like, I don't need this, as I kind of threw the whole baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. And so what was another aspect was my dad was an entrepreneur, businessman, always moving us from city to city to city, and he was not a Christian. So he was a guy that was very independent, a really smart guy, and very personable, really good with people. Always had a new business idea.
Yeah.
So he was always moving us from all up and down the Willamette Valley.
Oh.
So I got born in Eugene, so native Oregonian, moved to Medford when I was like 2, lived there 3 years, I think, back to Eugene, started school. We were always getting ripped out of school. That's how it felt like to me, starting over again. So we moved, my dad started a new business in Astoria. So from Medford to Eugene to Astoria. So
Wow,
lived on the
Astoria.
Columbia River for 6 years. My dad had a business up there. And so I went to 6 years of school, then as a sophomore in high school, moved back to Albany. But that was part of my story, was it was always, I always felt like I was kind of like new kid, having to just, make friends all the time, new friends, and start over again all the time. My dad wasn't living he was an agnostic, so he didn't really want to go to church. My mom was trying to force us to. So I'm just like, by the time I'm a teenager, I just threw it all out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need this. So then my dad insisted that I go to Oregon State. He was like, he wanted me to go to college. My other 2 siblings hadn't gone to college, and so he wanted to make sure I went. I went, and I was not ready for that. So I go off as I'm not a Christian, and to a very secular in the late 60s when it was, just the whole scene of, Vietnam War, all of that going on. Got thrown into that, and it was just, got kind of messed up. I didn't go completely off the deep end, but I was pretty, getting kind of desperate, and I knew there had to be answers. I didn't think it was in church. I didn't think it was God, But the amazing thing that happened was God had a plan. He was always the Redeemer. So I took a year off from college to get a job, and there was a woman there that absolutely loved God, and she was like a God setup, amazing woman of God that and I still want to thank her. It was Martha, and I have gone back and thanked her, and I want to find her again because I so appreciate what she did for me. But she was up in the middle of the night praying for me and loved me into the kingdom through friendship evangelism. And so that worked, and I was desperate, and I needed God desperately. and she had the answer, she had the truth, and she had the love, and she had the power and the authority, and just shared her life, shared her testimony. So she had me pray the salvation prayer, and it's very simple. So I was in a dark place. All of a sudden, the lights came on.
Wow.
Honestly, it was like night and day. That's why we're black and white today, because that's what it felt like. I was in a dark place, didn't believe that God was really even there, and the lights came on, and all of a sudden, everything shifted inside of me.
Wow.
Honestly, it was
So
like the
cool.
coolest thing, you know? And so I'm so
And how old were you at that time?
I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I had gone to college for 2 years, and was just like, I can't do this. I've got to find
Yeah.
myself. I got to figure this out.
Right.
Got the job, and then she was there, you
Wow.
know.
So awesome.
So yeah, so then I just had a huge, like, it was amazing. So the interesting thing though was I knew it was completely life-changing. I knew I had, like she said, you're born again, you're saved. I didn't even know what the word saved meant.
Wow.
I had never heard the word saved, so it was like a foreign concept kind of, but it felt true, absolutely true,
Yeah.
you know. So I wanted to go home and tell my mom, because she was
Right.
the one that had, you know, made sure we went to church every Sunday and all of that. I went home to tell her and share it with her, and she freaked out.
Oh, boy.
Completely freaked out.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't happen to you. That wasn't real. That was not real. That did not happen. No, that did not happen. What church does this woman go to? You know, and I said, well, she goes to the Assemblies of God. That's, you know, and it was kind of the Jesus movement at the time in
Right.
Albany. And she's like, they are holy rollers. And so I got confronted with the religious spirit big time. So, and that's kind of been my story.
Yeah.
So if you want to know who I am, I'm somebody
Yes.
that stirs up the religious spirit, apparently.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So she was freaked out, and she was really scared because she thought I was going straight to hell. And she told me that. And so I said, Mom, I just want to say I love you, and I thank you that you prayed for me, because I think that's your prayers got me to where I am. But what happened to me was real.
Wow.
So I need to tell you that I am not going to change my mind, because I know that what happened inside of me, I will never be the same again.
Wow.
I could
Wow.
never go back. And so I just want to love you, but I don't think we can talk about this right
Right.
now. You know, that kind of thing. I had to start
Yeah.
setting boundaries and
Yep.
love her, but yet at the same time keep the integrity of what happened.
Yeah.
And so then interestingly was, I had just met my husband. I had just met Danny like 2 weeks before that. So then here I am getting saved, and he's not saved yet. He's
Right.
a Catholic. So I'm coming from a Lutheran, and he's coming from Catholic,
Oh,
you know?
boy.
And he's searching and seeking, but he's not a Christian.
Yeah.
So I'm now a full-blown, you know, I'm saved, and
You're a holy roller.
I'm a holy roller. I was a holy roller from the beginning, yeah. Even though I had never raised my hands in church and, you know, all of that, but for sure, you know. And so I believe I even got spirit-filled at the moment, because I felt it. I felt
Yeah.
like I
You
did.
felt the power. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but then here's the Denny factor, because he's home on leave from the service. He still has 2 years left
Oh wow.
in the Navy, and we think that we might be like really falling in love, you know. And so I tell him, you know, this is what happened to me. But he's already gone. I had met him 2 weeks before, and he was home on leave, and then he had gone to Hawaii. And so I'm like writing him and calling him and saying, hey, this just happened to me, and this is real. And he's go, oh, well, that's really good for you. You know, I'm really happy for you. But he didn't think it was like life-changing thing,
Right.
you know, or that it would impact him at all, or our relationship. And so I just said, you know, this, and I tried to explain it, that it was, you know, it's
Yeah.
pretty hard to explain.
Sure. Yeah.
I said, I'll just never be the same again, and God is real, and he loves me, and he loves you, you know, and all of that. And so then he comes home for Christmas. So I get saved in October. This was 52 years ago right now, exactly.
Wow.
52 years ago in October. So he comes home for Christmas, And he's saying, oh, I think I can have what you have. I think all I have to do is just pray and invite, just ask God to help me, and I'll just get down on my knees and really, like all the religious thing to do, and I'll have what you have, we'll be fine, And so, okay, I believe you're right, which it was true, but his concept of it wasn't exactly.
Sure.
So, but we decided to go ahead and get engaged, and didn't have anybody telling me you should not marry somebody that hasn't fully accepted Jesus yet. I didn't have anybody telling me that or discipling me. So we go ahead and get engaged, and then we get married in the summer of 71. So that was a year later after we had met, and we did get married in 71. And so he still had a year and a half of his Navy career.
Right.
And so we decide, okay, well, we're going to get married and go. So he was stationed in Charleston on a ship tender because he was he worked with the nuclear end of things for the Vietnam War, and he was a very highly classified guy. So they had him on a ship tender. So getting married, we then went directly to Charleston, South Carolina, where he finished out his naval career. And the goal was he was going to, get his GI Bill thing and go to school. Yeah. And I was going to work and support him, and we had it all kind of figured out. And we decided several months into our marriage that we wanted to start a family. Uh-huh. So we were in this trailer. It wasn't even a mobile home, really. It was a trailer. And it was the only place we could find close to the base. So anyway, I get pregnant in January, and I didn't realize it was could be 90 to 100 degrees for 3/4 of the year, and humid in a trailer that had roaches. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh my goodness.
No.
You said this was in South Carolina?
This was in Goose Creek. Yeah, because that's on the Cooper River that flows from the Charleston Harbor, and then the ship he was tendered on was on that river, so it was like a naval area, whole naval base kind of.
Yeah, they have some humidity over there.
That what?
They have some humidity over there.
They have some humidity. So you see the steam coming off the ground, and the sun comes out and the steam rises, and so very humid, very tropical, very tropical. Plus a lot of roaches. I had never seen so many palmetto bug roach. They were talking about roaches, So before, but it's like they had found a freeway under our trailer door.
No.
Because it wasn't really even a mobile home, it was like it had a big gap. And so I would go to the bread, and I kept my bread and my potatoes in this drawer. And they would find the bread and potatoes. And so I'd get into the drawer, and roaches would literally, I'd turn the light on, open the door, and roaches would fly, So that kind of goes along with our message today. That's what happens when you turn the light on to the enemy. He's like a roach.
Exactly.
But so those roaches were all over the place. And so anyway, but we got through that, I got through it, and I was sick the whole time. I think it was the humidity combination of stuff, So I was pretty well the whole time, like 2 months, I think maybe even 6 weeks in, I started throwing up every single day.
That's brutal.
So that was the whole time, plus the air conditioner did not work. And the guy that owned the mobile home court said, well, it's up to you to fix it. If you want to fix it, you fix it. But it was not even one that would work if you fixed it. So we just, we lived with that. But anyway, so we got through that year, and Jenny was born in October. So October is a big month in her family.
Yeah.
So she got born October 11th of 72, and just turned 50. So she wanted to go, we've talked about this for about 5 years, that we would go back on her 50th to Charleston and do kind of a prophetic trip, and just go back to where she was born, just explore Charleston and find out really why was that her native place that she was born? Why was that the place God selected for her? So we just got back on Wednesday. for a week. It was amazing. So
So
fun. Beautiful,
cool.
beautiful
So cool.
weather. Gorgeous place. I highly recommend going there. It's in fact it's one of the most visited places in the United States for sure, and even the world right now,
Wow.
which is wild,
Wow.
you know. But it's beautiful. There's so many things to do there, but what they're known for is they're first in everything. Charleston is known as being the first in so many different things, and all of our tour guides were telling us all the firsts that they are, like first to fire the shot for the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Charleston was one of the first places where the slaves came.
Okay.
And they were auctioned off, and it was the last place to close down for the slave auctions.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that really fits me and who I am because I'm a freedom fighter.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go to the slave mart and see that and see all the history of that. So that was so cool.
Wow.
So anyway, that was just that's kind of a side trip a little bit. But so the Lord is really solidifying so many different aspects of my ministry, my calling, and all the way through my whole life, it's always been some kind of equipping, training, just me having to confront different spirits and issues and all of that. It's just been that's been my life,
Yeah.
you know, it's just been, so all of that just, when Denny and I kind of went off on a side trip from where Denny and I were, but he then didn't get saved. He did get saved after we got out of the service and came back to Albany. And hallelujah, because he then understood everything I'd been trying to say.
Cool.
And up until then, I was like, I think I understand what you're saying, but I don't. He just couldn't connect all the dots.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
So it was the middle of the night one night, and I was able to lead him to the Lord.
Wow, that's
And
cool.
we just had a big God encounter, came down in our room. He got spirit filled. And this was 2 years into our marriage, and we had little Jenny, but he got saved, radically saved. So then we really go together seeking God. God, what are you saying? What's our next step? What do you have for us together? And so he just started leading us. It was amazing. Denny got a job with the Postal Service right after that. It's like all these doors opened. It was all very, very supernatural God, So the Lord just started opening all these amazing doors. He got this great job at the Salem Post Office, which is where he spent his whole career and retired from there as a manager,
Wow.
But he started as a throwing mail guy,
Yeah.
But it was just the coolest thing because he had electronic background in the Navy. So they put him they got him right into the electronic end of things because everything was shifting then
Right.
with the big letter sorting equipment and the repairs and all the maintenance of that. So he was just a perfect, awesome fit. And he scored super high. So he was able to go right up the ladder with
Yeah, that's
really
cool.
great paying jobs all the way through, So it was totally God. But we moved to Salem, and we're going to find a church together, So we find this little church that was Assemblies of God, because we're like not going to do our past denominational stuff that we came out of.
Right.
So we find this on fire little church, and we plug in there, and then we have Eric the next year buy our first home in the suburbs in Kaiser. Everything supernatural. God's doing everything supernatural. We had no money down, and he got us a beautiful home. It was almost brand new.
Wow. So
Just
cool.
so many amazing testimonies that he did for us, But we plugged in there and raised our kids there, and it became People's Church, which is the big, became a mega church in a sense in Salem. It was the biggest church and probably the most well-known and in Salem. But we were part of all of it, the building of it, just everything I did, every kind of ministry there. And we were there 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
Raised
a
our
long
kids
time to
there.
Wow, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
we
At
did
one
it all
place.
there, and it was amazing. The coolest thing was, this is where I want to get into what God, when
Yeah.
he started calling me into what I'm doing now. I always knew I was like, I wouldn't have called it a freedom fighter, but I was always like a
Yeah.
freedom loving, anything to do with healing. I was there. It wasn't really valued and accepted within the church. Even the Spirit-filled church I was in wasn't
Yep.
so for it. But what happened is the Pensacola revival came to People's Church in 1995. So there
Wow.
was a fire spark from the Pensacola revival. Some people came to our church from there and brought it. And so
Wow.
it was like, it was fire. I'm telling you, it was fire. So I had been praying for years for revival in Salem. That's always been my heart and prayer warrior person, And so I had a group of people, we had prayed and just called to God and, just did everything we could, fasted, prayed, believed, called it in. And so Pastor Marchese was a brand new pastor that we had, and he was a facilitator and a host, a revival host. Kind of reminded me of Bill Johnson in a way,
Yeah.
that kind of, yeah. So he was just amazing, just welcomed it, just loved it, was just
That's so cool.
facilitated and taught us and all of that. So what happened is, I was right on the forefront of that because we were on the prayer team, and so we were like praying for people at the front.
And this
people,
was 1995?
This is 95, 90, 96
Okay.
maybe, because it really hit in Canada at the, that whole Father's Heart revival up there, and then it went to Pensacola, and then it came to our church.
Okay.
So 95, 96, I would say, really hit our church, and I was on the prayer team, so people were coming up for prayer, bam, they were going down, they were getting healed, it was wild.
Wow.
It was fun and wild.
Wow.
You walk by somebody, they fall, that kind of thing was happening, and so I was
Wow.
like, oh, Lord, this is amazing. It's like what we had prayed for, and we got to be there, firsthand witness of it,
Wow.
And so it's like, we can never go back. We can never
Yeah.
go back, And so it was really amazing for Salem, because Salem, was at the time pretty conservative, and the churches were like, that wasn't really fully accepted, but it kind of
I bet.
it kind of was a network that happened of
Yeah.
pastors they were even trading pulpits and that kind of thing, and just
Wow.
trying to host this whole thing. It was pretty cool. It was really amazing. So many people got saved, healed, delivered.
Wow.
So it's like, I was like, this is what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
But what happened is Pastor Marchese got cancer, and he died in 1999. And the sad part of that was that he was so much on the forefront of it, And so I think what tends to happen is people tend to look to man a little bit.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I was doing that at all, but he was really such on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
So when he did pass away, it almost felt like it died with that.
Wow.
The revival it just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
diminished. And then we had some people come in that were revivalist type pastors and leaders and had the heart for it, but it just never really continued on in that same way.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I knew that I had found my passion.
Right.
And and so Pastor Marchese, though, asked Denny and I to lead Cleansing Stream at that time as leaders of that, because that at the time was the best, I would say, deliverance, setting people free, getting people free emotionally, physically, was Cleansing Stream. And so he had through Jack Hayford, got introduced to it. And Jack was saying, well, just find a couple in your church that would be willing to lead it, and then you can allow that to just take off in your church, and then you can go to the retreats and get trained and equipped and all that. So that's what Denny and I
Wow.
got to do. We were asked to do that. So that was huge for me, because that was 25 years ago when I really started kind of launching more what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the full thing. It was just a piece of it.
Right.
And I knew there was way more, but I was like finally finding my fit.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't fully accepted at the church by the people that had been there for a long time, that was a little bit hard for them to accept all of that.
Right.
So
there was there was still some resistance.
There was resistance
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
but we were having revival, so a lot of those people that resisted left.
Got it.
They had to go.
Yep.
They just couldn't stay with there. So we had more or less
And
we're able
do
to.
you feel like with the people that they had to leave, so is that kind of like they just couldn't accept what God was doing and so they needed to go, or was it something else?
I believe that they were very afraid of it.
Sure.
I saw fear. I saw them like, this is outside of our comfort zone.
Got it.
We don't like it that people are actually manifesting in any way. We don't like to see things out of
It's
control.
messy.
And so I think the controlling thing was really one of the bigger issues.
Okay.
Like, we can't control this.
Right.
And the Holy Spirit's going, right, you can't control it. That's the point.
Right.
So we don't want you to control it. So if you
Right.
think you have to, then you need to go.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I think that was a lot of it, was that just the hardest parts for it was that people felt like, oh my goodness, we give that much freedom, then we don't know what to expect.
Right.
We don't know what this is going to look like. What's it going to mean for me? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what to do in this.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. And so those that were uncomfortable left. Yeah.
Got it.
But
Okay.
then I got a big taste of my calling, my freedom calling, and I love this, and I want to, even though I tend to be a little bit reserved
Right.
most of the time,
Right.
I'm like, this is it. Man.
Yeah.
We found it, and I have to keep going in this direction, And so, but what happened is, it did kind of end, and it kind of, just began to diminish, and then then they had a recruitment for a new pastor to come in, and they actually brought in a man that was a really strong leader, but he was not necessarily a revivalist, and so it changed the culture.
Yeah.
But so a lot of the people came back that had left, and so Denny and I were like, and at the time, I had been on I had already been working for the state for about 15 years or so. And I had been, during that time of revival, interestingly, I was a team development facilitator
Okay.
with the state of Oregon.
Okay.
So I was traveling around facilitating teams in
Yeah.
a secular way
Yeah.
of using Christian principles,
Yep.
but really it was pretty secular. And so, but we had some really good outcomes with teams, and I was using basically the word and the truth, and they didn't know that, but it was. So that was during the whole time I was being a leader in cleansing stream. I was doing that in my job.
Yeah.
So it was kind of wild.
Yeah,
It was
that's
the
amazing.
contrast of the two, worlds.
Training in both ways.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Super
the Lord's
cool.
always kind of had me doing both for some reason, Okay, so then I realized I was working with a lot of managers, and I loved that, and I was having success, and so a bunch of people really encouraged me to go for a exec management position with a state agency, which I did get. I got hired in that capacity. So then they actually paid for me to get my master's in
Oh, wow.
public
That's
management
great.
through the state. Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. So then during that time, I met several other managers that were doing the same thing, and they got saved.
Wow.
It's kind of like, I was just like, I couldn't contain my, my excitement about what God was doing. And so that's how I feel like God was saying, I want you to go to the front lines of the world.
Yep.
I want you to take the message of freedom and healing and salvation to them and be a witness and a testimony.
Wow.
And so I feel like he let me do that.
Yeah.
This was cool. So several of them got saved. So we decided we're going to start a Bible study
Wow.
right next to the director's office, which we did. We did. So we had marketplace ministry. So we had this going amazing Bible study right.
And this is for while you're working for the state of Oregon.
Yeah, because they had to give equal access. They could have done it if the Satanists came and said, we
Right,
want to meet,
sure.
they would have had to do it.
Right.
They told us that. But they said, yes, you have the right to do that. You're on state property, and you've decided you want to have this meeting. Yes, you can do it at lunch, and we'll give you this conference room to do it.
That's super
But I
awesome.
also had some really influential people that got saved.
Yeah,
So
that's always helpful, yeah.
they had a direct connection with the director, so it was pretty cool. Anyway, so we had got a lot of people got saved. People got delivered. We were praying. I would get there at 5:30 in the morning and pray through the building. And I had the privilege of touching. I was working at the Department of Revenue, so I had the privilege of just praying through a lot of things. And,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so it was a pretty
amazing.
amazing time.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. So, but then I decided I was 58 in '08, and I decided, Denny and I both decided it was time to retire. And we felt like God was shifting us out of the season we'd been in, and even the church we had been in for 35 years. That He was leading us to a new place, and that it was going to show us where, and to follow Him, and it was a whole new season of our life.
Wow.
So when I retired in '08, New Beginnings, '08, He showed me that I needed to get healed in my body. He wanted me to be the message. He wanted me to not just take a message, but be the message.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
needed to be healed in my body, and I needed to be healed in some emotional stuff I had
Sure.
that kept coming back up. Even
Right.
though I'm a freedom fighter and I've had a lot of training and on all of that, I still needed
Sure.
my own healing.
Yeah.
So okay, so I went on it. Danny and I both just went after it. I more than him probably, but we went to a supernatural school of training in Albany. We went for a whole year of that. I also went to like naturopaths and did everything that I could possibly do to get myself healed in my body. And I did. I got some help, and things changed. And also, the school was great, and I got very connected with Bethel. So I went to a lot of different trainings down there for Sozo, for Love After Marriage, for higher level inner healing stuff. All of it. I just did everything I could possibly do to get trained for several years, and went through Robin and Martha. They're Restoring the Foundation. Highly recommend that for just going through real intensive, getting down, just going through your whole life. So I did that. Denny and I both did that. So that was awesome. So then in 12 was another transitional time kind of for us. I was getting healed. I was getting a lot of really amazing training and equipping. In this church in Salem, because I kind of wanted to be closer to Salem with what I was doing. This church in Salem that we started attending invited me to be the director of their inner healing wholeness
wow.
ministries.
Okay.
So I
And
actually
that was in 2012.
2012 I
Okay.
started that, yeah. So I went through all of their, I went again to Bethel and got refreshed on everything, and took on the directorship of that team, and it was about 20, sometimes it would go up higher numbers of people, but we did, I was almost working full time, honestly.
Wow.
So I was doing freedom sessions. I don't know if I want to call it sozo, because people have a connection to that word
Yeah.
that maybe
Sure.
isn't always really positive.
Sure.
So it's transformation.
Yeah.
It was healing, breakthrough, and I used their model a lot, because that's what they were asking us to do. I wanted to, be under their umbrella, so to speak. But then it kind of transitioned into us doing some, where we wanted people to get completely healed in their bodies in a session, and we saw that a lot, where people
Wow.
would get healed in a ministry session, because they would deal with the issue of
Right.
the enemy being there.
Yep.
And the lies they believed. And as soon as that lie got dislodged, a lot of times their body would start manifesting pain. And so right at that time is the best time to deal with the healing, because the enemy is showing himself. He's
Right.
revealing himself. And so you can just command him to go and speak healing right then. And we saw so many people get healed.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
we were just going after the whole thing, And I loved it, because I was training, equipping, mentoring, coaching my team. I did way over 1,000 sessions myself, I'm sure,
Wow.
in that time. And working really like, this is like a full-time job, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it was pretty intense and it was awesome. And then we got invited to go to a women's shelter in Salem because they heard what we were doing and they're like, we need you to come here and try this with our people coming off the street
Yeah.
that are coming off out of prostitution, out of addiction, out of any number of things.
Yeah.
That to see if that would work for them, just frontline, just, you guys come in, do what you do. And it did.
Yeah.
So we did that for a year and it was like, oh my goodness. They were like, because it was supernatural.
Yep.
And they weren't necessarily a supernatural organization.
Right.
They were saying, whoa, this works. Okay, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
This is like, wow,
Yeah,
okay, But we didn't want it to just be us, related to us, like you have to have us to be the ones. We wanted it to be more transferable. Like you can have this too, you can do this too. It's not just exclusive to us. We don't just have this anointing only us. This is something that you can have too.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of more my message. I wanted that to get out. And but what happened was COVID hit.
Yep.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
So they had to close it down. They
Wow.
closed down the shelter actually.
Oh my goodness.
They did. They closed it. They didn't have any new people come in, and they wouldn't allow any volunteers to
man,
come
that's
in.
so horrible.
So it was just bad with that. So that shut it down, sort of, with that. But yet that was a transition for me too,
Yeah.
because am I talking too much?
No, this is
Okay,
fantastic.
so what happened, the transition was that I knew God was speaking to me about change again. And because I kind of go in 7-year cycles, it's 12 to 19, and now it's 19. And it wasn't COVID yet, but 19 was the year we were at the women's shelter, and he was speaking to me about change going outside the 4 walls, that
Okay.
I'm taking you outside the 4 walls. And he was doing it, and I was like, this is amazing. And okay, Lord, I don't know what that looks like, but yes. So Johnny Enlow came to our church, and he was doing the activations on
The 7
the
mountains.
7 mountains, yeah. And so I just thought, well, I'm just I'm a family, and I'm a church person,
Right.
that's it. So okay, I want to hear what he has to say and just see what happens. But
You already had decided.
I would already decided that's what I was, so that's it. And so then he gets to the business finance mountain, and he said, if your right hand starts going numb and you feel any manifestation in your right hand, you're called to that mountain. And my right hand was totally numb all the way up my arm, and I don't really manifest. I'm always the one that's praying for everybody, but
Yeah.
not manifesting
Yeah.
really. And I'm like, what's going on? And I was shocked, and I was so surprised that I could even be manifesting in the first place. And then it was at the finance mountain. And so I said, wait a minute. This is for my kids because they're business people, and I've been praying for them. I've been interceding for them. I've been, so that's what it is. And he said, no, it's for you.
So did you have a chance to talk to Johnny?
I did not, because
Okay.
he was, no, I didn't.
So during the activation, he was reassuring.
He was, yes. And so the cool thing was, he was saying, your right hand's manifesting because you're called to this mountain.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm fighting with God, and I'm hearing Johnny. And then he goes right into, if your left hand starts manifesting, you've got a creative way to make money. And my left hand went numb. And I'm like, no way. I'm not creative, God. What are you doing? What's going on? Because that's my lowest thing on your test.
Yeah.
I'm a 20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not making sense at all. And so I was just like, here I am at this age, and you're telling me this now? Like, I was kind of fighting with God a little bit, like, really?
How did that go, fighting with God?
No, it didn't work. So he said to me, as clearly as I've heard him, he said, I want you to go home and start writing your book.
Wow.
And I said, my book? What
book?
And he said, the book I've been telling you that you've had prophecies over, and I said, oh,
Wow.
yes, Lord, you're right, on freedom. Oh, yes, Lord, you're right, And I don't know how to write, and
Right.
he goes, I'm going to show you.
Wow.
You're on a journey with me, just like you have been all the way through.
Wow.
And now I'm calling you to do this.
That is
And
awesome.
and I said, I just started crying. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I'll do it. So so I went home and I pulled out he said, pull out all your files and just start writing. Don't try to think it through.
Wow.
Don't try to figure it out. Just start writing. And I'm going to give you categories. And so what it turned out to be was like, well, these are so many different categories of freedom. He said, it's a devotional. So it turned out to be my 30-day devotional on freedom.
Wow. So awesome.
And just a lot of what I had learned, but still was, working it, walking it out too. And so I did that whole year of 19, working at the shelter, doing sessions at my church, writing was really,
So you're writing. So COVID hadn't hit yet. It was
no,
2019. You were working at the shelter. God was showing you this can go outside the church. It works
yes,
everywhere. I'm everywhere.
yes,
And also, by the way, business,
I
finance. Also,
know.
you're creative. Start writing a book. So that
That
was
was a
busy.
lot.
That was busy.
That was
That's a lot.
totally
Let us
outside of
know,
my
Lee.
comfort
Yeah. Come
zone.
on.
Completely. Yeah, that's what he's always done though.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it was really a stretch, I would say. I was stretched to the limit on it, and it was good though. It was
Yeah.
a good stretch, but so then I actually published my book through Westbow Press because
Uh-huh.
it was the most reputable self-publishing, and I wanted to keep my rights on it, and so they were professional and all that. I just didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know anything about publishing, so I learned a lot, kind of learned the hard way
Yeah.
on it. But it was done professionally, and I've obeyed God, so I thought, that's it. Okay, I did it. Thank you, Lord.
Got
I
through
did it.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. I obeyed you. And he goes, and this is just the first one. And I'm like, what? What? And so when I hit send to send it to the publisher, he said, get ready for volume 2.
Wow.
And so I'm like, volume 2, Um, and he said, it's on redemption. Everything I've done on the cross for people,
Wow.
I want you to start writing.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, Lord, so I kind of did the same thing with that. And I was beginning to write that even in 19.
Okay.
But it took a long time for my first book to get published because I went through
Yeah.
a publishing company. And so guess when it came out though? My Stand Firm to Be Free book came out just as COVID hit.
Wow.
Came out February 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty prophetic too.
Yeah. My
So
goodness.
I didn't realize that I would need everything I had written for myself
Right.
because my husband, within that few months, got diagnosed with terminal bone cancer.
Wow.
So he was,
Just after that was published.
well, no, not exactly, because we were kind of, everybody was in shutdown for a while. We were all,
Right.
quarantined and the whole thing we did. And they would not let him come in. His body was really hurting bad. And I knew it was more serious than what he had before, like just not normal pain. It was
Right.
just intense. And so they wouldn't allow him to come in to have a bone scan.
Oh my goodness.
And so it took a few months. And so by the time he finally got in to get that bone scan, the cancer was throughout his whole body.
Oh.
So that was a big shock. And I was already, had already finished my book 2, Redeemed for Freedom. And he had already asked me to start writing my testimony on Fast Forward into Freedom. But in the meantime, I had been, so as Danny was going through this, I'm like, he's got cancer. He had been diagnosed with cancer 8 years previously. And he had just done the watch and see thing kind of, and
Yeah.
the doctor was okay with that.
Right.
And it was in remission. And so it wasn't really, we weren't really pursuing, getting completely like going after him getting healed.
Yeah.
We didn't pursue a lot of that. So, but when I knew how sick he was, and I realized that this whole COVID thing,
Yeah.
wild. And then I realized that my body still wasn't completely healed and I needed help. And I'm like, God, I need an answer. So with our being shut in quarantine, he said, now's your time.
Wow.
So he started showing me that intermittent fasting was for me because I had high blood sugar. I was close to being pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
I had high blood pressure. I had plantar fasciitis.
Yeah. Okay.
I had eye continuous eye flare-ups because I've lost almost all vision in my right eye. And I just thought I need physical healing.
Yeah.
I can help pray for people to get healed a lot, and I love it, but I need help. I need healing myself. So he said, I want you to start this, and I'll be with you, you know. And I listened to a lot of videos and Dr. Berg especially on intermittent fasting and keto combination and all that, and realized that, oh my goodness, all the things he's talking about are my issues.
Right.
And I believe this will help me. But I had some core lies about it that I can't fast. I've never been able to fast and I won't be able to do it.
Right.
I had a lot of other lies that I had some lies.
Yeah.
So I had to get all those out in the open. I had to do freedom sessions on myself.
Yeah.
And just got all the lies out. I got all the generational beliefs that were faulty. I put them all out on the table. I just put everything out there and I said, okay, here we are. All these things are keeping me from being healed.
Wow.
And so I started going through my process, which is exposing the lie, renouncing the lie, and replacing it with truth right away.
Right.
That's how you get freedom.
Yep.
That's basic. So I did that with me. And I started getting, oh my goodness, I started getting free enough to be able to fast. I started getting free enough to be able to do something I didn't believe I could do.
Yeah. Wow.
And I went through 3 days of I was really hungry. And I just turned it back to the Lord as a sacrifice of praise because he said, I'm healing you. I'm healing you. And do this as unto me. And I did. And I got through that first week and I had lost 3 pounds. And I felt all the pain in my body starting to go.
Yeah. Inflammation probably, right?
All the inflammation started going because when you go into autophagy at 16 to 18 hours, your body turns into a fat burning machine and also goes after disease cells. So all the disease cells and inflammation started just disappearing.
Wow.
So I started feeling really good. I was losing weight and I was past the hunger. And I'm like, I can do this. Oh my goodness, I could do this. So I started making a journal and a diary of it. And he started telling me, you're going to write your 3rd book on this.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. So have you started the 3rd book?
Yeah, so it's just got published.
Wow.
It just now got, I'm going to
so
have it
awesome.
waiting for me when I get home.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
Exciting.
so it's my personal testimony on being healed in 4 different areas in my body and losing 35 pounds in 4 months, 3 months.
Wow. That is amazing. So Jan, what I want to do is I want to dig into the ministry, the now 3 books in the next session. And so we're going to have this, like we said at the beginning, this will be 2 parts.
Okay.
This has been absolutely fantastically educational, really encouraging. Just to hear about the whole journey, the path that you had to take, and just something I kind of felt like the Lord was saying as we were listening to it was, and I think this would be encouragement for people that are watching, what you think the path is supposed to be, even when you have a prophetic word or whatever, it's not always how you think it's going to be.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that it's the wrong path or that you're off. We kind of develop these ideas inside of our mind sometimes, like, oh, okay, well, I got it, Lord. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then this is going to happen. And then sometimes I feel like I can almost see the Lord up there, kind of like, you think so, huh?
Yeah, you think so. Okay, we'll see how that works for you.
It's not necessarily how it's going to be, but the encouragement is it doesn't mean that it's necessarily the wrong thing. Sometimes it is the wrong path, but it doesn't mean it's the wrong path just because it's not going the way you thought it was going to go.
Exactly.
And I just super appreciate your story, hearing about it, and you're not going to want to miss the next episode. So we will see you guys on the very next episode. We're going to dig into the books. We're going to dig into more of the story and really hear about this super powerful ministry. And just appreciate you spending some time with us today, Jan.
My privilege. It's
Yeah,
my honor.
it's awesome.
Honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks.